If you were to tell me a while back that not only would the Rent-A-Girlfriend author Reiji Miyajima will create not only another romance story, but also that romance story would get an anime adaptation just like Rent-A-Girlfriend did, I would be at a loss for words, mainly because I just can't believe that these kind of stories are the ones that get anime adaptations. Meanwhile, other series that do deserve to have their own animes have to wait a really long time to even be considered into getting an anime adaptation. And just like Can a Boy-Girl Friendship Survive, the anime that we're going to talk about was also very hard to sit through because of just how ridiculous the story got as the anime was airing, and that anime is none other than the Shuinji family children. And while I could spend this entire video just talking about how bad this anime is and why you shouldn't waste your time watching this, what I instead want to talk about is what I learned from watching this anime, but also something that just proved my point after also watching Rent-A-Girlfriend, and is the fact that the Rent-A-Girlfriend author Reiji has no idea how to write romance, or more specifically, he has no idea how to write good romance. Because one thing that I've learned after watching Rent-A-Girlfriend and the Shuinji family children is that both of these series always have something weird and something infuriating that you just don't understand how these type of stories get so popular. One series has one of the worst MCs of all time who's trying to make a Rent-A-Girlfriend be his actual girlfriend, but failing every single time, that you just want it to end and you just want something of interest to happen, even though you know deep down that that's not going to happen, because the author has made it so obvious that they're going to drag the story until the end of time. And then you have another series that has the story plot of these siblings who they all thought were siblings for their entire lives, until one day it's revealed to all of them that they are not in fact siblings, since as it turns out all of them were actually adopted. And by me saying this, you already know where this story is heading, but even before this revelation, things were already starting to be weird with this story, as very early on, one of the girls, this being Kotono, made it very obvious that she had some feelings for the MC of this story, this being Arata, even though she still firmly believed that both he and her were brother and sister, which now looking back kind of foreshadows how insane this series gets and how much of a dumpster fire this anime will become, which didn't take too long because no surprise, as soon as this secret was revealed to all of them, while Arata tries his very best to view his siblings, especially the girls, as nothing more than just family, the girls were quite the opposite, as some of them, for out of nowhere basically, start to really wonder if they still view Arata as just their brother or something more than just a brother, which is really confusing to me because you mean to tell me that all of them were able to act perfectly fine and normal when they all still believe to be siblings, yet the moment it's announced that they are not, all of a sudden some of the girls start to question their feelings towards him and start to wonder if there's maybe something more that they felt all this time, and now they are processing everything. It not only makes things weird, but it's very clear the only reason why this plot's even happening to begin with is because the author is trying their very best to stand out from the other romance stories that are out there. And while there's nothing wrong with standing out, but just because you don't want to follow the same formula as other romance stories, it doesn't mean that you have to make a bad story, especially with how Arata is written in this series, as Arata, despite everything that has happened, he still tries to keep his morals. He's still trying to view the girls as nothing more than just his sisters. After all the teasing, after all the very questionable moments that he has sometimes between some of the girls, he tries very hard to overcome it and not let it get to him. And it's even established that Arata is interested in a girl that's not part of his family. But since that's too normal for the Rent-A-Girlfriend author, you know that by the end of this series, you just know that he's going to eventually end up with being with one of the girls that he used to consider a sister. And that's the thing that really infuriates me about this series, but as well as the other works that this author has made, is the fact that there are some good moments here and there, and there are some things that this author does that if done right, his series wouldn't be complete dumpster fires. I mean, going back to Rent-A-Girlfriend for a while, there was an actual moment in which Rent-A-Girlfriend actually had a good arc, this being the movie arc in which Kazuya and Chizuru are creating this movie in which Chizuru is the main lead, and at first everything seems to be fine and Chizuru is extremely happy they're doing this because not only was this Chizuru's dream, but it's also something that she wants her grandmother to see. But when her grandmother's health starts to deteriorate and it's revealed that her grandmother doesn't have a lot of time left in her, this would of course emotionally impact Chizuru. But for once, Kazuya shows that he could be a decent human being when he decides to go to the hospital and show Chizuru's grandmother the movie that was starring Chizuru. Not only was this a beautiful moment, but it was also a moment that made us realize that the author can write, and if he wants to, he can make characters actually be good characters and actually have good character development. Of course, this would be the only good arc that came from Rent-A-Girlfriend, because afterwards it just seems that he just went back to what he usually does. But for a brief moment, we got to see how Rent-A-Girlfriend could have actually been good had we had more arcs like the movie arc in Rent-A-Girlfriend. And going back to the Shuinji family children, just like Rent-A-Girlfriend, it too also had a good arc as well, which centered around Minami, who is athletically gifted and is really good at tennis and is an important member of the tennis team. So when she gets the news that she won't be able to compete for the finals due to an injury that she tried to hide, this would greatly affect Minami, but she tries very hard to hide it, as due to her personality being this upbeat girl who is always cheerful and very positive, the last thing she wants is for people to see her be devastated because of this news. So she tries to not let it bother her and acts like it's not a big deal. But while that's something that she's trying very hard to show outside, inside this is affecting her, as not only is tennis her passion, but also because her senior that she greatly admires and views as a role model doesn't have a lot of time left, as eventually she's going to be going to the next chapter of her life. So she wanted to win this up and coming game for her as a thank you for everything that she's done for her, but now it seems that she won't be able to do that. But when Arata and the others find out about this, they do their very best to not only take Minami to this game, but also for her to always remember that no matter what, they have her back, and if she ever needs help, they'll always be there for her. It was a great moment for this series, as not only does it demonstrate the bonds between all of them, but also demonstrates that no matter what, even if they're not related by blood, if any of them are ever in trouble, they don't have to worry about facing the problem alone, because now they know that no matter what happens, help will always be there. And even though Minami did not win, which was very realistic, as sadly not every competition that you are in you're always going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. And even though Minami still tried to act like it was still not a big deal for her and that losing wasn't going to impact her, Arata made sure that Minami did not hide her true feelings. So in the moment they're both alone, he makes sure that Minami vents out how she really feels, something in which she actually would do, as she not only shows her anger, her sadness, but also her frustration and her devastation of the outcome that happened in the game, as she wasn't able to accomplish the goal she had going into this game, and that is winning for her senior. And even though it's not surprising that during the aftermath of this arc, Minami will start to develop feelings for Arata after everything he did in this arc, it just, once again, it's another example of Reiji being able to create these good arcs that actually makes us care about these characters of these stories, only for him to not be able to replicate it for the other characters of this story. Because after this arc, the other arcs are not that great. There's this arc that we have with Oka, who is the other girl that also has feelings for Arata but tries very hard to deny it or try to act like these are not feelings of love, and then she goes on to this journey where she goes somewhere else, and then Arata has to go and get her because everybody is genuinely worried about her. So this would then lead to eventually Oka realizing that she can't hide these feelings any longer, and that even though she only wanted to view Arata as nothing but her brother, she can't do that anymore with these feelings that she now has with him. Again, this probably would have been better if this whole brother and sister thing didn't exist. And by the end of the season, we then get this like moment where all the girls who have been established to have feelings for Arata get together, and they both come out and accept the fact that they all have feelings for Arata, and that even though they still consider each other as sisters, it doesn't mean that they are not going to be rivals, because that's going to happen now that they've come clean with how they're going to try to get Arata to be by their side and make him fall for them. And as all this is happening, all I'm thinking is just that this story is a complete mess and a complete disaster, because it's really hard to root for any of these girls without always having to remember that there was a point in their lives where the guy they are now going after was once their brother, and that is something that is very hard to forget. And what's crazy about all this is that with the right hands, surprisingly, this kind of that concept can work, and it could actually create a really beautiful story that another series managed to do, this being Days with My Stepsister. Unlike Arata and the other girls who grew up as brother and sister, Yuta and Saki did not grow up like that. Sure, they became stepbrother and stepsister due to their parents forming a relationship with one another, but the thing is that unlike the Shuichi family children, it actually does have a very serious approach in it, as both Saki and Yuta not only try to get used to this new unexpected chapter in their lives, but also when they start to realize that they're developing feelings for each other, all of a sudden it doesn't mean that they instantly want to go out and be together. What instead happens is that both Saki and Yuta start to question if what they're feeling is actually okay. Is it a good idea for them to fall for one another when they are stepbrother and stepsister? Isn't this considered forbidden love? And how will this affect their new family? It's because of these questions that make Yuta and Saki feel like real people who are trying to understand how they should approach this very complicated situation, because it's not really that easy and the answer isn't that simple. And that is something that you don't see with the Shuichi family children, because it's very obvious that the author is speeding up the process just to get to the romantic parts, using the stepbrother and stepsister concept just to please a certain audience. Whereas with Days with My Stepsister, it was trying to convey just how love can be so complicated and how the person you love could result into you being in scenarios that you didn't think you would ever be in. So overall, when it comes to the Shuichi family children, is yet another example that not everybody can write good romance stories, and in this case we see that an author has tried to write two romance stories, but both of them are not good, and yet these are the series that get the spotlight, and these are the series that somehow get popular and some people actually enjoy. So I guess it doesn't really matter how good or bad a romance story is, as long as there's some people who are genuinely interested in these type of stories. It's not going to be surprising that in the future we get yet another romance story by the creator of Rent a Girlfriend. And that's where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.